Hello, it's Ben Recap again. Today I'm going to explain the first episode of the new TV series, House of the Dragon. Watch out for spoilers and take care. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. The movie opens in the Great Council of Harrenhal scene with older Rhaenyra's voiceover, explaining what happened. King Aerys reigned for 60 years, but tragedy took both his sons, leaving his succession in doubt. So in the year 101, the old king called a council to choose an heir. Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, the king's eldest descendant, and her younger cousin, Prince Viserys Targaryen, the king's eldest male descendant, were the successors truly considered. But the lords chose Prince Viserys to be the Prince of the Dragonstone. Episode begins proper 9 years into the reign of Viserys I, a giant golden beast soars through the clouds and over King's Landing. A teenage Rhaenyra hops down and lovingly pets her steed, whose name's Syrax, before bantering with a nearby knight, Sir Harold Westerling, and meeting up with her bestie, Alicent Hightower. The teens are driven back to the Red Keep, where they swing by the Queen's room. Rhaenyra's mom is very pregnant and highly uncomfortable, and Rhaenyra thinks it's a travesty that everyone's more focused on the baby than on the woman about to have it. This discomfort is how we serve the realm, the Queen says, though Rhaenyra would rather be a knight and ride to battle and glory. Next, the teen runs off to her duties as the king's cupbearer at his small council meeting. Viserys seems unbothered by the matters up for discussion, which include the absence of his brother Daemon, who's commander of the City Watch but apparently isn't a regular attendee of these gatherings. The talk turns to a tournament the king is holding to celebrate the imminent birth of his next child, whom he's sure will be a boy, and who will solve the problem of Viserys having no male heirs. Princess Rhaenyra visits her uncle, Daemon Targaryen, who is the current heir to the throne since King Viserys has no son. She meets him sitting on the Iron Throne, which is unusual, and he tells her it might be his chair one day. He gives her an ancestry necklace of Valyrian steel. King Viserys visits Aemma in the bathtub. They discuss their unborn child. Aemma doubts it's a male child, but he tells her of his dream of a son on the Iron Throne with the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. That night, Daemon addresses the men of the city, amping them up before setting them loose to raid criminal hotspots around Flea Bottom. This sequence features cutting the sexual organ of an accused rapist, among other dismemberments. By the end, a two-horse cart carries separated body parts from their owners. Otto is in the middle of bemoaning Daemon's violent actions to the king, when the two men walk into the small council chambers and see Daemon sitting there with a smirk on his face. He calmly explains that he was just cleaning up King's Landing ahead of the tournament, and his brother agrees, but cautions him. Daemon heads to a brothel, where the thought of losing the Iron Throne to a baby is weighing on him so heavily. The woman he's with, whose name is Mysaria, strokes the prince's ego. The king cannot replace you, she croons, hugging him to her chest. Time for the tournament. The crowd cheers when Viserys opens the proceedings by announcing that Queen Aemma is in labor. Daemon is up next, and he chooses Otto Hightower's oldest son as his first opponent. When Hightower gets a good hit on the first pass, an angry Daemon trips Hightower's horse on the second pass, making the horse throw his rider as he falls. As the day goes on, some jousts evolve into horrifying hand-to-hand combat, with the crowd cheering the whole time. Brienne muses to her husband that the young men who are competing have never known war, and therefore fight. Eventually, Daemon goes up against Sir Criston, and the latter bests the former, causing him to fall halfway off his ride and get slung down the rail like a happy hour beer at Cheers. Daemon then calls for the contest to continue, man to man, so it does. But Criston is as good off the horse as he is on, and Daemon eventually yields, and the Mystery Knight then approaches Rhaenyra and asks for her favor, which she tosses to him, wishing him luck. The king is called away by a Maester who informs him that the baby is breech, a feet down position. Eventually, the king is called upon to make a decision: cut Aemma open in order to try and save the baby, or lose them both. The king gives the order to save the baby. Viserys looks sad as he tells Aemma he loves her, just moments before she starts crying that she's scared of what's happening. When they cut, she starts to scream. The baby, a boy whom Viserys names Balon, is successfully delivered, but Aemma is dead. Otto brings the news to everyone seated in the royal box. The worst part: Aemma and Viserys' son died not long after his mother. Aemma was sacrificed for nothing. I wonder, during those few hours my brother lived, my father finally found happiness, Rhaenyra says bitterly, in High Valyrian, to Daemon at the funeral. Then, choked with tears, she gives the order for her dragon to set the pyres ablaze. The small council soon decides that the succession needs to be set immediately, so they meet to debate whether Daemon is a fitting leader. Some argue that Daemon might murder Viserys to assume the rule sooner than later. Daemon, by the way, is eavesdropping on all of this. Then Otto suggests that the king's firstborn child become the named heir instead. Finally, a grieving Viserys yells that he won't deal with the matter now, and that ends that. Otto is in his chambers when his daughter, Alicent, comes home. He tells her to put on one of her dead mother's dresses and go to the king's bedroom to offer him comfort. She does. She brings a history book. She sits with him while he works on a giant model of King's Landing that he's carving. She tells him she's sorry for his loss. Meanwhile, Daemon hangs out at the brothel, where Mysaria toasts his being the king's sole heir once more. And he winds up giving a speech about how I'm not so easily replaced and calling his dead infant nephew the heir for a day. Otto reports all of this to Viserys the next morning. Even Rhaenyra is taken aback to hear that her uncle celebrated the family's loss. Viserys summons his brother before the Iron Throne to ask him directly if he said the heir thing. We all mourn in our own way, Your Grace, Daemon says. Viserys unleashes upon him, saying that he's made excuses for him forever. Daemon shoots back that he's never once been asked to be Hand of the King, and that Otto doesn't protect the king. From what? Viserys asks. Yourself, Daemon replies. Then the king sends his brother back to the Vale, because he's no longer the heir. As Daemon leaves, Viserys cuts his hand on his chair, and it bleeds. Then the king meets with Rhaenyra to talk about continuing the Targaryen reign. He apologizes for being so focused on having a son, then tells her that he now believes she was made to wear the crown. Then he shares with her the secret that Targaryen rulers have been passing down ever since Aegon. I had a very unsettling vision of the end of the world. It is to begin with a terrible winter, gusting out of the distant north. Aegon saw absolute darkness riding on those winds, and whatever dwells within will destroy the world of the living. When this great winter comes, Rhaenyra, all of Westeros must stand against it. And if the world of man is to survive, a Targaryen must be seated on the Iron Throne. A king or queen, strong enough to unite the realm against the dark. Aegon called his dream the Song of Ice and Fire. Good luck, kid. So Alicent dresses her friend for a very public pledging of loyalty, and Rhaenyra stands before the Iron Throne while all of the lords swear their fealty. Meanwhile, Daemon brings Mysaria to meet a dragon I believe is Caraxes, and they go for a little ride. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. See you later.